There was a time when you thought control was strength. You mistook rigidity for safety and vigilance for love. You believed that if you could predict every outcome, plan for every possibility, and manage every feeling, then maybe, just maybe, you'd finally be safe. You learned early that the world could shift without warning. So you built walls from willpower and rules. A fortress of order around a tender heart that couldn't bear more chaos. And for a while, it worked. Control became your armor, and perfection your shield. But armor, no matter how polished, always comes at the cost of softness. Control doesn't make you safe. It makes you tired. It turns life into something to manage rather than something to experience. It disconnects you from the pulse of your own heart, the spontaneous current of your soul. And the longer you hold it, the more it holds you. There is a difference between influence and control. Influence flows. It listens, adjusts, and creates. Control tightens. It grips, resists, and demands. When you control, you stop listening. You replace curiosity with certainty. You turn the mystery of life into a strategy to be solved. But life was never meant to be solved. It was meant to be lived. The mind tells you that control prevents pain. But what it really prevents is healing. Because to heal, you must feel. You must soften into what is, not what should be. And that softness terrifies the part of you that believes survival depends on tension. Every time you micromanage, over-explain, or anticipate disappointment, you reinforce the idea that the world cannot be trusted. But the truth is, the world has always been conspiring to meet you where you are. It's your resistance that creates friction. The control you cling to was born from love. Distorted love, yes, but love nonetheless. Part of you once said, if I can just keep everyone happy, everything stable, everything in order, then maybe no one will leave. And that part deserves compassion, not condemnation. You don't need to fight control. You need to understand it. Because control is not the problem. It's the signal. It tells you where you stop trusting. It shows you the exact place where surrender feels like death. When you feel that tension in your jaw that you need to fix or prove, just pause. Breathe into the space behind the effort. Ask yourself, what would happen if I didn't intervene right now? That's where trust begins, in the brave act of not doing. You were not meant to force harmony. You were meant to embody it. And harmony is not control, it's connection. Control was never who you were. It was who you became when you forgot that life loves you. And when control begins to loosen, authority begins to rise. Not the kind the ego craves, not the kind the soul emanates. Authority is not about dominance. It's about presence. It's the quiet power of someone who no longer needs to prove their worth. It's the inner alignment that says, I trust myself, and therefore I can trust life. Where control grips, authority grounds. Where control manipulates, authority harmonizes. Where control demands, authority simply is. Authority is what happens when your inner world is congruent. When your thoughts, emotions, and actions speak the same language. Its integrity made visible, and it radiates without effort. You felt it before. The calm steadiness when you speak from truth. The way people listen differently, not because you raised your voice, but because you stopped hiding your heart. Authority doesn't seek validation. It invites resonance. It doesn't say, follow me. It says, walk with me. It doesn't control the outcome. It holds the energy. Authority trusts timing. It understands that alignment creates more movement than pressure ever could. It knows that the most powerful leaders don't force. They model. They become the example of what harmony looks like in motion. And this is the gift that you are reclaiming. To lead by embodiment, not effort. To influence by authenticity, not manipulation. To hold your truth gently enough that others feel safe to find theirs. When you live in authority, you don't need to protect your boundaries. They protect you. You don't need to defend your choices. They speak for themselves. And in authority, you don't need to prove you're right. You just need to remain aligned. Authority moves differently. It walks into the same chaos that once triggered control, but it doesn't flinch. It listens. It observes. It responds from center rather than survival. And in that stillness, a sacred kind of leadership awakens. The kind that can hold contradiction. The kind that can see many sides and still choose love. This is not about perfection. It's about coherence. It's about trusting that your presence is enough. Because when you stop grasping for control, the divine begins to move through you effortlessly. You're not the force. You are the channel. And then we come to Valor. Valor is courage wrapped in grace. It is the bravery to live undefended. It's the willingness to be open, even when the world feels sharp. Valor doesn't roar. It hums quietly in the chest of those who've known fear and kept their hearts soft anyway. It's the soul's decision to keep loving even when love costs everything. Control was about fear. Authority was about trust. But valor is about love. It's the moment you realize that no matter what happens, you will not abandon yourself again. You will not betray your truth for comfort, acceptance, or familiarity. Valor is not the absence of fear. It's the refusal to let fear make your choices. It's looking uncertainty in the eye and whispering, "You don't scare me anymore." It's the courage to be tender in a world that mistakes tenderness for weakness. Valor is the strength to forgive without forgetting what you've learned. It's the wisdom to surrender, not because you've given up, but because you finally understand that surrender is strength. Valor doesn't fight life. It joins it. It moves with storms instead of against them. It knows that vulnerability is the truest form of power. When you embody valor, you become transparent, not invisible, but luminous. You no longer hide your wounds. You wear them as symbols of awakening. And that radiance calls others home. It says, you are allowed to be both soft and strong. It says, you are allowed to be scared and brave in the same breath. Valor is the full integration of heart and spine. It's when compassion and conviction hold hands. Valor is when you realize that your very presence is medicine. And this is your natural state. You've just spent years remembering. And now, breathe. Let it all come together. The unraveling of control, the rise of authority, the soft power of valor. They were never separate lessons. They were the same movement, seen from 3 different stages of awakening. Control was the contraction. Authority was the stabilization. And valor is the expansion. And you, beloved, you are the space through which all of it flows. You are not trying to become anything. You are remembering what you already are. Notice how, as you release the need to control, your body feels lighter. And notice how, as you stand in quiet authority, your words carry more weight. And then notice how, as you live with valor, your heart becomes the compass instead of the cage. You don't have to chase alignment anymore. You are alignment. You don't have to manufacture peace. Your peace remembering itself. The world no longer needs your control. It needs your calm. It needs your presence. It needs your example of what it means to lead with heart rather than fear. So loosen your grip. Trust the unfolding. The divine is not asking you to steer. It's asking you to dance. And as you do, you'll notice that the chaos you once feared becomes the rhythm that moves you. The uncertainty you once avoided becomes the doorway to intimacy. The vulnerability you once resisted becomes your superpower. This is your becoming. Not a destination, a rhythm, a continual blooming of authority into valor, of valor into peace, and of peace into love. You were never meant to control the world. You were meant to embody the stillness that reminds the world that it's already whole. Let this remembrance settle deep. Let it fill the empty spaces once occupied by fear. Let it move through your voice, your eyes, your touch. You are safe to release. You are safe to trust. You are safe to lead. And you are safe to love. And most of all, you are safe to be. I love you.